Hey guys, it's Tim Bratz. Welcome to the Legacy Podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Mara Harris, a friend of mine here in Charleston, who owns a company called Celestial Lights. And it's a family-owned business that she's kind of been integrated into over the past year or so, and she's helping take things to another level. So she's got a crazy, awesome story. Everything from the start of the company back on QVC 30 years ago to what they're doing today in order to dodge and weave and maneuver and continuously improve on their processes, on their products, on their business, and on their people. And so she's got an awesome story that I'm excited to dive into with her here with Mara and Celestial Lights. Mara, what's going on?
Hi.
Welcome to the Legacy Podcast. And so a lot of times, or all the time, we sit down and we talk about the entrepreneurial journey, what it's like being an entrepreneur. We talk a lot about personal finance. We talk a lot about team building, all the lessons learned along the way, lifestyle design, all that good stuff. And I'm excited about what you guys have going on. You guys got a lot of really cool things. And, I'm heavy in the real estate, so a lot of people that I have on this podcast are real estate or investor specific. I love having product businesses, and I love having entrepreneurs from other industries on here to talk about all the other things that they have going on and seeing the parallels and the differentiators and how we can take something from this industry and plug it into this industry, and then and how it can adjust and move and make your life and business a little bit more efficient and effective. So I'm excited to dive in and talk a little bit about Celestial Lights. So give me the backstory of the company first, and then how you got involved and how you're running it now.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. First
Absolutely.
of all, excited to be here.
Yeah.
So our business is a small family business. It started with my dad, Jeff. It was the late 80s. He was working for another company. And then around the early 90s, he was working with a company that was in the Christmas industry. And it was the early 90s, and it was the time when everybody had fake Christmas trees, poor quality, and then they were, it was really hard to put them up. It took a lot of time, and then people were stringing lights around them. And the lights were just poor quality, they weren't bright and vibrant, and so my dad had this idea, well, what if somebody actually just made pre-lit Christmas trees? And everybody sort of said, no way, no one's gonna pay for that. Like, that's gonna be too expensive. And he was like, I feel like there's a way to do it. And so he went out on his own and he started his first company, Bethlehem Lights. And he was the first to make pre-lit Christmas trees. And those were...
Your dad invented the pre-lit Christmas tree that everybody has now.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. And so
Does he have IP around that? Is there patent or anything?
No.
I know it's very difficult to get on a lot of the, I made a chair, it's got 4 legs and whatever. It's pretty tough to do on product stuff, right?
Not that, a handful of our other products are patented, but not that one. So he went out on his own, like I said, he started Bethlehem Lights. He proved that it was very successful and high demand, and then he sort of spread that and he said, okay, well, if that's working, why don't we do it for, garlands and wreaths and sort of spread that pre-lit idea across to other product lines, and it was very successful. He sold that business. He was still in charge and running it to a degree, but he was on QVC selling for years, and so
What is that process like? What's it like to get on QVC?
So it was the time, when QVC was really in its prime,
right.
And that was like the place to go. And he was on, I remember growing up, I have an older brother, and my dad would be away, a lot in the summer and the fall selling. And my mom would wake us up and be like, all right, come on, let's have breakfast and watch Dad on TV. And it's like, here I am having my cereal before school, watching my dad sell Christmas trees on TV.
That's funny.
But QVC was in its prime then, and a lot of stuff, I think they used it as a test, and then it was just there was so much demand for it.
Is there a process that they teach you on, like if you're going to go to QVC and you're going to pitch a product for 30 minutes, is there like a hey, we're going to start with the functions of the process or of the product, and then we're going to move into just like testimonial after test. Like,
Right,
is
right.
there a process that they teach you and that they go through that is like a sales process that's proven to work on a commercial or like a program like that then you can take and duplicate elsewhere?
You know, I don't know if there actually is like when you sign on with them, if they're like, all right, this is sort of the script of what you do, how
Right.
you sell. I don't know if that's, I don't know because I wasn't doing it, and it's a good question, but I don't think so. And I only say that because I see people sell on QVC now, and everyone sort of has a different strategy. Granted, QVC does have their salespeople, or I actually don't know what they're called, but you know, it's
Sales
like,
coaches kind of
yeah,
thing?
who are there, and they're sort of like helping you talk through the product and sell, and they're sort of like moving the conversation along. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's necessarily a script, but anyways, he was on QVC for years, and he became known as Mr. Christmas.
Really?
And he was doing really, really well, and they just sort of expanded their product line to these little like night lights that were like, I don't know if you've seen the little like Santa night lights with like the bubbles like that light up. Like they did those for years. They did just string lights for years. I mean, it was incredibly successful. And
I love that. Does QVC take a big rip on everything? I'd assume so, right?
they take their cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
But QVC is interesting because at the time, QVC I think was the biggest buyer for the business, and it was just like most of what we were doing was for QVC.
Yeah, everything came through that channel, right?
We did.
It's like you got your golden goose. It's like, let's keep feeding it.
Exactly. I mean, I will say that my dad brought like Plow and Hearth, Front Gate, QVC, them into the pre-lit Christmas industry. Before that, they weren't doing any of it. So those were two other really big players. But yeah, so he built this very successful business. He had sold it, and then he was like, you know what, I'm done. He left that, and then he was like, I think I'm going to start this again, but smaller scale, and really push the products that I know work and are really profitable.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, how does he break that down? Like, what are the things? So when he says really work, or when you say really work, it's the things that sell with the highest margin.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
The easiest things to sell with the highest margin.
Exactly, and you think about everything from, you know, how much does the package weigh for shipping and returns, and is it really big and bulky? And so he left Bethlehem Lights, it was GKI Bethlehem Lights at the time, and he started Celestial Lights. And he brought 2 salespeople from Bethlehem Lights with him. And so for the last, I don't even know how many years, it's really been him, the 2 salespeople from Bethlehem Lights, and one other sales guy that they hired more recently. So it's this team of 3 running a very successful, you know.
It's a lot of revenue per employee. I like that.
Low overhead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
And so how are they selling it today? So they've just gone completely e-commerce with it?
No. So we sold completely wholesale for about 31 years.
To the big box retailers.
To all the big box. Yeah, exactly.
And so they'd have your products, you know, the seasonal selection when you walk into Lowe's and Home Depot and, you know, whatever, all the different stores.
Yeah. We weren't selling the Lowe's and Home Depot, but Plow and Hearth, Front Gate, Brookstone. I mean, it was just like really, you know, the higher end
Brookstone,
retailers who liked high quality, well-made products that were going to last for a certain demographic. And so so they sold wholesale for 30 years. And, you know, when I was younger, I always wanted to work with my dad. Like, ever since I was a little girl, my dad always worked from home. And I would sit under his desk, and I would play under his desk while he was working. And every once in a while, he would say, you know, can you draw this for me? Because he can't draw. He's not artistic at all.
Yeah.
And he would say, can you draw this for me? And he would send it over to China. He would, like, fax it over to China and say, you know, I want to create something like this. And so I was doing drawings for him, and
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so I always wanted to work with him, and he just kept saying, no, you need to go do your own thing. Like, go to school, go work in the real world, like, go explore, do your thing. You don't want to work for me, kind of thing. And
do you ever ask him why he said that?
Yeah, I think because, he was like, I wanted to make sure that you really wanted to do it. He never pressured me into working for him, taking over. It was never, it was just very much like, I want you to find your own path.
Well, when I think about that, I got Penelope is very like entrepreneurial, and Hudson doesn't really care, but Penelope, like, she wants to start a business, she wants to like buy a rental property, like, but she has zero conception of like what is a real rental property. Like, she wants to buy beach houses. I want that one, Dad. Well, you need $8 million to buy that one, Penelope, and it's not going to cash flow
monopoly
positive.
money in her mind.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what she thinks it is, and I think there's probably two parts. The first that I would think is, it's hard being an entrepreneur, right? You get your legs taken out all the time, punched in the gut over and over and over, and there's a lot of struggles typically in that process that as a parent, I know what it took, and I know how much I struggled and how much I still struggle being an entrepreneur, as opposed to not wanting my kid to have to go through that, right? And wanting to protect my child so I work really hard so you don't have to deal with the headaches and the problems and the struggles that I've had to deal with, so that way you can just be happy all the time, because that's all I care about as a parent. So that's one. And then secondly, I think about it from, well, if she really wants to get into real estate, if she really wants to be an entrepreneur, it's really important that she has something to compare it to.
Yeah.
That she has something. Let's go see what a bad company looks like first. Let's go see what a bad boss looks like first.
Yeah.
So that way you can appreciate what a good boss is. So you can appreciate working remotely. So you can appreciate having time and flexibility and all those different kinds of things. Because if you don't ever have something to compare it to, then this is what you think life is like, and you always think grass is greener on the other side. Mm-hmm. And very rarely is it, And in fact, usually it's not. And usually it takes a lot of watering, and usually it doesn't end up being, or it's turf, right? It's fake life. Yeah. It's fake grass. Yeah. And so I think there's probably some of that. At least when you share that story, it resonates with me in that capacity.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of that, in conversation of, this is not an easy job. Like, there's something to be said for having a steady paycheck and, working for a corporation that's got great benefits and all of that. But, I always wanted to work with him. And I worked in pharmaceutical marketing for 10 years. And it was January 2023. And I said to my dad, I really want to work with you. I want to talk seriously about working with you. And he said, okay, let's talk about it in the spring. So I said, okay. So I went home to Chicago. We went out to lunch one day, and he was like, okay, I'm open to it. And we had a conversation, and it was, let's talk about the business. We talked about it. We talked about his products. We talked about what he used to do. And I said, why don't you sell direct to consumer? Like, you don't have a website. Like, I tell people about my family business, and it's like, or my dad's business, and everyone's like, well, where can I buy it? And it doesn't exist. And so, he wasn't going to hire me just to like do what he does. Yep. He was like, you do
need to
something,
bring new value.
Yeah, exactly. You do something I can't do. Mm-hmm. And so that's when we decided, okay, I'm going to come on and we're going to take the business direct to consumer. So that was around end of April, and then I think I quit and I started working with him in August, and that was when it was sort of just like off to the races, going direct to consumer. And it's been a journey.
So 10 years in the real world.
Yeah.
The real world.
Yeah.
Learning about, but you probably got some really good skills. You understood what a big corporation runs like. Oh. You understood that a world-class sales training, I'm sure, went through all of that kind of stuff. And then you could bring that to a small business, which there's a lot of value in something like that, especially like me. I've never been in the big corporate world. I've always been entrepreneurial. So it's like, have somebody come in and bring higher level procedures or higher level training or whatever that is, and kind of a professionalism to the flexibility and the dodging, the weaviness of a small business is really powerful.
Yes. And I mean, especially when it's like you're going from I went from huge agencies in New York City to a team of my dad and 3 salespeople. And everyone, no one's like, there's no benefits. Everyone's 1099. It's like, it was so different, and I did bring so many, and I have brought so many skill sets that I learned from big corporate agency life. But it was an adjustment. I mean, it's a small team. Like, we don't have to deal with like the corporate BS, so to speak. We don't have a ton of meetings. We get together, we jump on the phone, but like, we've got a WhatsApp chat. We have outdoor patio lamps, for example, and it's like we're bringing in a second patio lamp to market, and we're like, all right, well, we've got one out there. We should come up with names now for them because they can't both be the patio lamp.
Yep.
So, in 3 emails, it's just like everyone's like, all right, this is what I propose the names be. This is what I propose, and someone's like, great, love that, done. Everyone works so well together, and it's really nice. But there is that sort of more. You're sort of able to be more nimble and scrappy, and everyone's sort of picking up and doing little things. Whereas in the corporate world, it's like, well, this is what I do. Like, this is my area of expertise. But now,
how many people are going to be mad if we do name it this thing, and how are we going to get sued, and what does this look like? And
exactly.
It's got to go up multiple levels in order to get approvals in place, and there's constraints around that. And so, there's benefits on all of it. We all want to grow to that for some reason, and then you get there and you're like, I don't like this at all. I like and one time I saw the guy who started the first, I think he had 3 or 6 Starbucks in Seattle, and then he sold, and then to corporate, and then it took off, right? And so he had the first handful of them. He was one of the partners. He's like, and you think, oh man, this guy got hosed, right? Because right before it went like this, he didn't stay on the. He's like, I didn't want to be part of that. I don't like the corporate structure. I don't like a board of directors. He goes, I like bootstrapping companies and getting them up to this, and then selling them, and then doing it again. Like, that's the excitement for me. It's not this corporate. I'm not driven by the money necessarily in that, because it's not worth the headaches that come with it, or the constraints and the headache and the handcuffs that come with that. And he goes, I like the small business and the scrappiness and the nimbleness that it comes with. So I love that. So let's talk a little bit about, one, what is it like working with family? Is that good? Is it bad? Are there new things? Like, you called your dad by his first name. You don't call him dad, I assume, in business settings.
Correct.
So what is that like?
It's so funny. So first of all, I will say I'll call him my dad for the sake of this podcast. But yes, in professional settings, I always refer to him as Jeff. And that was a rule that I had from the beginning. I was just like, I can't be at a conference or a show or on a call and call you dad. It's not professional.
It doesn't look good for you, because then it reminds everybody every single time you said that, oh, this is the owner's daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's the owner's daughter. Oh, she's only here because she's the owner's daughter. Like, and then there's like this thing that, oh, well, she didn't earn it herself, right? Like, how do you overcome that?
Yeah. So I think,
because there's a lot of people who are in family businesses that I feel like that's a big struggle. When I talk to many of my and they're like, it's almost like a chip on their shoulder for a couple of my buddies who come from family. It's like, dude, I'm going to take it to this level, and they work harder than anybody I've ever seen, and they've grown it bigger than I could ever, or anybody could ever imagine, because there's always this little chip on their shoulder. Do you feel that?
No. So my dad and I always had a great relationship, even before I started working with him. I mean, I'm very lucky. I'm very close to both of my parents. I'm so grateful for that. My dad, I've always thought of as like this incredibly savvy business guy that, he's the person that like could write a book and everyone would read it because he's got all these nuggets of wisdom and
fun stories, it sounds like.
And very fun stories, yeah. And so I think we both approached me joining the team as, there are strengths that I have that he doesn't have, and there are strengths that he has that I don't have.
Very much so.
And it's very much a let's learn from each other and work together. And I'm so grateful because I've heard horror stories of working with family, and so far that hasn't been my experience. It's very much like we know what the other one's good at. We know what we can learn from the other one. But that doesn't mean I don't speak up and I don't, speak my opinion, even if it's something that I'm not as good at. And same with him. It's been great, and it's.
Well, I think what I can tell about you and just the way that you're talking about working with your dad is he respects you, and you very much respect him.
Yes.
And I think where the lines merge in a lot of families is, you battle with your brother and sister growing up, and there's this comfortability where you cross the line of being respectful because you can bust their chops and like certain things about them and like what really agitates them, things like that. And there needs to be like a hard line in the sand of this is a professional setting. I'm going to talk to you like I would any other colleague or any other coworker in a respectful manner.
Yeah.
And I think the respect gets lost a lot of times when working with family, and that loss of respect, then, like my sister, she's like runs hotels up in Ohio, and I have a bunch of Airbnbs, and I have a need for somebody. It's like, but every time we get together, she's busting my chops, I'm busting her chops. I think there's this. It's not a fine line of respect. And I think that would roll over, and I was like, I can't hire her because of that.
Yeah.
It would disrespect me in front of the rest of the team, and and then all of a sudden I got to fire her and make it, So I think about that kind of stuff when working with family, but it's very obvious how much you respect your dad, and it's very obvious how much he respects you, and I think it's one of those things where he wanted you to go out and get the business acumen so that way you could bring a certain skill set to this company and the rest of the team could respect you as well,
Yes, absolutely. And it's very much felt, and I hope he feels the same way. To your question though, or to your point about the chip on the shoulder and trying to prove myself, I think what helps is there's two things. One is when I started working with him, I was like, I have so much to learn. I mean, we import our products from China. I'm like, I need to learn all the factories. Granted, growing up, I actually went there with him once and met the people. So everyone sort of knows about me, but I was like, I need to know exactly which factory does what, and, the shipping container process. And, once the shipping container gets, to the port, then getting it to the warehouse. And and then the warehouse, and then all of our wholesale buyers, and I was sort of like, I have so much to learn.
So we said you had one job, which is
Right.
taking it direct to consumer, and everything else will come into play.
I will learn the rest, exactly.
And I think that's pretty standard, especially in real estate too. You see it like, I need to learn acquisition process and the title process and the raising money process and the operations process and all these other things, and you're like, we'll cross those bridges when we get to those bridges.
Yeah.
We don't need to worry about that now. Let's take some action. Let's get the ball rolling, because that's all stuff that just kind of fills in the gaps. I was on a phone call right before this with my two attorneys and a business partner in our software business, and talking through entity structure and all this stuff. Like, I'm still learning. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers, but that doesn't stop me from taking action.
And I think that's when you have your own business. I mean, you are going to be hit with stuff all the time, completely unexpected. It's like, you never know what life is going to throw at you. You're always learning. You're always evolving.
You can never be know everything, right?
Right.
Like, you can never know everything. So it's like, all right, just get started.
You make plans and God laughs.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. It's the name of the game. But I really appreciated that, of just like, don't get overwhelmed. You're going to learn it all, and it will come. And that's very true, even in the less than year that it's been. And then the other thing is, I am super motivated to grow the business and take it to the next level. And I think that because we have a small team, and it's thankfully people that I've actually known since I was young, because they were two of his salespeople from his original company, they're all motivated too. They're all like, let's grow this, because the business has evolved so much. Back in the day when they were selling on QVC, like we said, like that was like where the action was. I mean, I've got a great story about one of his wreaths. He sold just sold out, almost completely sold out, an insane amount in 6 minutes. And QVC was like, we got to take you off air. The phones are going crazy.
Wow.
So his the sales team remembers those days too. And the market has really changed. And I am very motivated to make direct to consumer as successful and big as it can be. And there is no, side remarks or side eye from anybody on the team. Everyone is just as into it. Well, because we all see how the market's changing and how our wholesale buyers, for example, like Christmas, that was the majority, that technically probably still is the majority of the business, and that's very seasonal.
Very much. And
we sell those to some .coms, but a lot of garden centers buy faux foliage. But as their demographics change, as their sales change, their orders are getting smaller and smaller. And so our salespeople are also feeling that and saying, they're seeing the struggle too. And so there's motivation across, I think, the whole team to make direct to consumer as big and successful as it can be.
I love it. And I think, you've been planting seeds and you've been in the business, right, since you were a little girl. And so it's like, you've also paid some dues. You've been out to China, you've drawn, like, that's my product anyways. I drew that, right? And so like, I could tell that there's a lot of, openness for everybody to bring you on and bring a breath of fresh air into the business. And what I'd love to do is, in the next segment, dive into why did you go direct to consumer, right? When there's a lot of people that want to go, I want to go business to business because it's just bigger contracts, bigger sales, like all those kinds of things. And you guys already have those, and you also want to go direct to consumer. I have a couple ideas and thoughts around it, but I'm excited to dive into that. So we'll save that for the next segment. And then what I want to do is dive into a lot of the product development. I think that's really where you guys shine on a lot of different things and the creativity that comes behind that. So I want to get into all of that on the next segment. But for this one, it's been super interesting to hear your story. And where can people get a hold of you and find you? We'll share all this in the show notes. But what's the best place for people to connect?
Yeah, celestialathome.com. And our Instagram, TikTok, it's all Celestial at Home. Facebook,
I love it.
So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome hearing about your story. I'm excited for the next segment where we dive into the products and why you went direct to consumer.
Awesome.
Super cool conversation. Hopefully you guys are following Mara and her journey with Celestial Lights. And I guess, as you're buying some products out there and looking to do some things, send some business their way. I love supporting small businesses and promoting small businesses. And they do a ton of e-commerce. That's where majority of their business is done now. And make sure you're here next week, because next week we're going to be really diving into the products, the product development, how they come out with new ideas, new strategies, and their all the different things that they're doing in order to patent their products and bring them out to market, not just in the wholesale world, but also in the direct-to-consumer world. So I'll see you next week on the Legacy Podcast.